KFUG Community Radio, 1143 the time. Just Paul with you. I am joined live in the studio. Julie McNiel. Say something, Julie.
Hello, everybody.
Thank you
for having me.
Thanks for coming in today. And you didn't just come in because you were out wandering around. You had to drive from elsewhere to be up here in Delaware County today, right? I guess it was. Were you here? Did you drive up this morning?
I drove up this morning from my neighborhood in Humboldt County.
It's a beautiful drive today, right?
It's gorgeous.
It's a good day. It's a really good day.
Beautiful.
We'll spend some time doing the weather toward the end of it because I just like doing it this time of year. I try to set aside an ample amount of weather time. So Julie McNiel you are, I guess, in essence, my boss.
Well,
supervisor?
I am the
Ombuds person?
Oh, sure. Okay. Sure, Paul. Can you get me some coffee?
It starts. But an instructor, arts and instruction, or arts and corrections.
Arts and corrections.
I completely, and this is
yes,
my gig
I'm a
too.
teaching artist, and I've been teaching at Pelican Bay through the Arts and Corrections program since 2014.
Wow.
But I'm also the site coordinator, so I'm sort of the go-between between you, Paul, and our colleagues who are working for the William James Association and the Arts and Corrections program.
Wonderful, wonderful outline of that. Thank you. How many people are out there teaching at Pelican Bay?
We have now in our program, we have 6 people.
Okay.
And we are teaching arts and corrections classes in a variety of disciplines, 7 days a week in multiple facilities at Pelican Bay now.
Mm-hmm. And you specifically are, is it visual arts? Is that the name of it? Yes, exactly. So what sorts of visual arts are we talking about?
Well, drawing and painting primarily. But we've done, we work with different media. We've done collage projects and things that are acceptable within the, environment that we have.
Mm-hmm. And you are all over the facility out there, right? And just about every location. Where are the places that you teach? So
on the main line, the general population yards. One of the classes is in a dining hall that is no longer in use. One of the classes is in a gym. There is a class, another class that is in a medical clinic. There is a class that is where actually that class and another one in the SHU or secure housing unit takes place in holding cells. So the students are escorted in individually into holding cells in the SHU. And then we do have a dedicated arts and corrections classroom in the level 1 facility.
Oh, wow. Okay. So how many students do you teach then through the course of a week?
I would say in a week I could be teaching maybe 30 to 40 students.
Wow. And you said it's grown over the years. When you started there, what was the program like?
Well, it started the first year, 2014, 2015, was the pilot program to see if that would work. And it just started in the level 1 facility. And I think I had, for quite a while, 4 to 6 people maximum in that class. And we also had creative writing taught by Cecilia Holland. And we had Dale Morgan teaching guitar. They had taught in the earlier incarnation of Arts and Corrections before it was closed down. So the 3 of us started that first year just in the level 1. And then it expanded in 2015. So
I want to talk more about the programs and all the programs that are available as well. One of the inmates I was talking with recently said that his estimation was, and it was just in an estimation, that he said well over half of the inmates, at least on the yard where we were talking, take part in these programs, in all of the different kinds of programs, whether it's GED or even religious studies. There was somebody I was talking to who's learning, he wants to become a pastor down the road and is studying in the chapel there, and right down to the arts and corrections programs as well, which I thought that represents, I guess, a sea change at Pelican Bay, because it was, 5-10 years ago, a vastly different place.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've seen a real change just myself since 2014, more participants, more programs coming in, a very different atmosphere. The first few years that I taught there, it was very restricted. We were really, really, really careful in everything that we did, and had only a few people at a time in classes, but it has really expanded, and people are more expressive in class. I mean, this art show that we have being installed at the courthouse, I feel it's very different from shows that we've had in previous years.
Okay, so let's talk about that, because that's why you're here, and we got talking about the program and stuff, because I've been thinking about this.
I love talking about the program.
It's a really interesting thing, and I'm still still, like, it's such a surreal experience just going into the prison and walking through the gates and a sally port. I learned what a sally port was. I did not know. I didn't even know I didn't know that until going there. But this show, there is a show. You said there are pieces still being hung at the main concourse there at the courthouse, at Delaware County Courthouse. So you say it's changed.
Yes.
Let's go back with when people say, I wonder, what sorts of art do inmates create? Well, now's their chance, of course, to go see this show, but to talk about the art that comes out of Pelican Bay.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people making art, and always have been in prisons. It's well known. There's people, in order to survive prison, people get pretty creative, and there are a lot of artwork being created. But the formal program has a different impact because it's also creating a kind of a community, and it also provides a sort of gateway into other forms of education and rehabilitative programming. So most of my students have never been in an art class before. The vast majority, I mean, I'm going to take a guess, 99.9% have not been in formal art classes or received instruction before. But many people are attracted to my class because they are already fully fledged artists. They have taught themselves in prison. They do very beautiful, intricate artwork that is largely, I think a lot of the work is influenced by tattoo magazines and whatever is accessible, and also cultural motifs that have been passed around through the community that emerge over and over again. It's its own visual language.
That's why.
And so many people come in who already have some drawing ability, but they don't get to work with color media, and color has a really incredible emotional impact. So people really enjoy painting, working with colored pencils and pastels, and so because I bring a lot of art books and magazines inside, I'm coming from the outside in, I'm bringing different kinds of things for people to look at, and so we can talk about different kinds of iconography, and that's why I think this show is different. This show this year is more, the iconography is more varied. There's personal stories, there's family members, there's a lot of play off of art historical motifs, and also themes and things that we've talked about, content that has to do with, say, optics, color theory, things discussed in class. Some students have really started exploring that and playing around with that in their visual art.
Wow. So it's not about, here's how you draw a bowl of fruit. I mean, you're talking about the language. You're talking about the symbolism, the deep structure of the visual images that are created. That's amazing. That's cool.
Yeah. It's really, I mean, we can do things like draw from life. I mean, we do have some exercises. You know, I do a classic exercise called blind contour line drawing, where you draw your hand without looking at the paper. You keep your eyes on your hand and use line. And so some people really like that and some people don't. But the main interest is in getting people to tell their own stories and explore the media, improve technique, but also develop their own vision through the work.
So you talked about, you alluded to changes in this. This is the fifth Art from Inside show.
Yes.
And so is it just a more complex artistically? Is it a more complex show than previous shows?
Yes, I think it is. I think past shows, understandably, we often start with the landscape. For example, with painting, that's a really great place for beginning painters to start, because you can work with different textures. It's extremely flexible, and a lot of people really enjoy it. It's more peaceful. You know, you're an artist with a canvas. You're mixing paints and you're creating these landscapes, and that's been kind of a dominant and consistent theme in the work that we do. Also because a lot of the guys that are in the prison, when they're out in the yard, they're finally outside of the building, looking up and surrounded by the mountains. They see trees. A lot of people have an interest in the wildlife and have seen, deer and cougars and eagles, and so that kind of works its way into the art. But this is definitely different this year. There's we've pushed some of the boundaries a little bit, and I've been really encouraging people to explore different formatting. So something as simple as making an artwork on a round piece of paper. That was sort of our theme. I gave every student round pieces of paper that were pre-cut because people don't have scissors. And we talked about different strategies, different kinds of themes, circles, the moon, the sun, clocks, time, cycles, mirrors, windows, and to kind of play off of that idea of the circle and what it means to that artist. And that led to a lot of new kinds of imagery, just a simple prompt like that most people have never made a picture on a round piece of paper.
Right.
So that I think that little thing just got people to move around within that space differently and introduce different kinds of content.
Well, short of going down and seeing the works of art when they're finally finished being installed, what sorts of format or formatting can we find in this show? I mean, how free are you in the classes to paint bigger or have them work on bigger pieces, smaller pieces, different sorts of media? I mean, what's the spread?
Yeah, we have acrylic painting, and we do have sort of standardized canvases. I think the largest we work with is like 18 by 24 inches. And that can be a little challenging because just moving it around the prison and trying to get it out of the prison, storing it. And sometimes students want to package it up and mail a painting home to the family or something, and that becomes a problem. But it's people love it. They love having that larger format to just move across it physically and have that whole space to themselves to create a scene. So I always try to make sure that people have access to large sheets of paper, larger canvases, without making it too much of a problem.
That's interesting.
And and we have some facilities have pastels, they have color pencils, they have markers. Some people have access, like in the level 1, to scissors and glue and various painting mediums and different kinds of papers. And so that results in different mark making, and people get to play with it a little bit more because of the restrictions inside and the challenges of trying to get access to just something like paper and colored pencils, which is a real difficulty for a lot of artists just to get supplies. It allows people to have more freedom to explore and experiment and maybe draw something that they haven't ever thought to draw before. So I think that is much more expressive in this show, is that freedom to incorporate just different animals and shapes and color combinations and people and family figures and cultural motifs or landscapes that are specific to their own personal experience. There's a number of pieces in the show where the artist is telling a personal story. And you might not know that when you first look at the artwork as an outsider viewing it. But if you look closer, you can see certain things. That there's a small painting that one artist made in the main line that is about the death of his brother. And so you see a series of trees, and one of the trees has fallen. So the artists are working with symbolism to convey personal stories, their own trauma, but also their own joy just as being artists. And just some of the work is very funny. Some of it is kind of hard to interpret in some ways. Like people have been very careful in what they do. We do have to stay away from certain kinds of material in our classes.
Sure.
But people have really come through with really unique combinations of iconography.
11:57 the time. KFUG Community Radio. We're talking with Julie McNiel from the Arts and Corrections Program. She's a visual arts instructor at Pelican Bay. There is currently a show happening at the Norte County Courthouse till June 20th. Art from Inside. This is the 5th year of this show. I don't know if this is, and help me clear this up, if this is a stupid question or an amazingly prescient question. But do inmates do different art, different kinds of art? What's different about being the experience, the artist being in a... You brought up them going outside, being out in the yard and seeing, just a little cross section of Del Norte County around them. And that was one thing that struck me, actually, probably just the view. Mm-hmm. Here's our surroundings. This is Del Norte County. I know that hill where the towers are. I know where that is. I can drive right to it. I've never seen it from this angle before. Just being in the prison itself. So. The art, of course, must be informed by that situation, but is it substantially different than just the human experience?
My feeling is if you were to come into Del Norte County Courthouse and look at this art show and you didn't know that it was made by inmates inside of Pelican Bay, you might not know looking at it immediately. It's just a very interesting, diverse, beautiful array of different artworks. Once you find out it's from Pelican Bay, then you might start to see certain things emerging. There's one very prominent painting actually in the show, of a large black and white painting by a young artist in the general population, very young, very interesting, passionate artist. And he created this large artwork, and he's written Pelican Bay across it in this very beautiful calligraphy, which also is interesting. A lot of people do calligraphy in the prison, and he's got a scenario of a lot of men that are in their individual cells. So it does show the prison. It does show the inside view of the prison. So once you start picking out those pieces, you start to realize that this is coming from the inside.
Wow. Once you sort of realize the point of view that it's taken, and you go, oh, it puts me right there. I'm inside now too.
And you read the artwork differently once you realize it's from inside. You start to see different. Maybe the colors mean something that they wouldn't mean just in the outside.
Right. What's the I've thought about this as the audio journalism class has gotten going. The relationship between artistic freedom and physical freedom. And we talked about, just as I will have to do eventually, and you have to do with I just killed my headphones. There we go. And you have to do with anything coming out of the prison now. There is a sense of self-censorship. It seems just inchoate in all artistic expression that happens in the program there. Do you ever find that to be a problem? Is it stultifying in any way for you, or is it something that is easy to transcend?
Most of the time, no, but there have been a few situations where I feel that people are very careful within the prison. They are in a situation locked up with a lot of different people, and out in the yard or in housing, they may never talk to each other. They may really remain quite separate from each other. The art classroom is really great because eventually what happens is people start to relax, and you start to get more, that kind of drops away as the conversation is about, how do you put a picture together, and people start laughing more, and it's more naturalized. But I do often sense that people, I think a lot of students have already talked with each other before they come in the room. There's some self-monitoring or monitoring of who's going to get into the class. I think within their communities, they really treasure these classes and these programs. And I feel that once they're in there, they are organizing the space, seating themselves in very specific locations to make sure that everybody feels like they've got their spot and there won't be any kind of conflict that might arise in the environment over it. So yeah, I think there is some of that going on in there. Just there's some self-protection or even maybe protection of certain groups and of the program itself that they're taking care of themselves that I'm not even aware of.
Sure. And that sort of context, it just must permeate their entire experience, because you might talk, and I've had conversations like this with inmates too, where in the span of a conversation, you completely forget where you are. But then it's easy for me to forget where I am because I will get to leave.
Yes.
And they won't. And still, you have those moments of transcendence, but you never actually leave that environment, that context. So it just seems like an interesting sort of juxtaposition like that, the freedom and not freedom.
Yes, but it is very interesting. Part of the objective of the program is to have some kind of a way of bridging that gap between different people that might not normally relate to each other or even might even be at odds with each other, and they know that, and they're very careful. And I've never had any problems in my class. People really do treat each other with respect, and I've had students speak about it in class. They've asked me questions. Do you think, I always remember a student asking me, do you think it's more important to like a person or respect a person? And, that led to a conversation about
That's an interesting question. Wow.
Importance of that respect was primary, and that they recognize that. And the program does attract people who really are looking to looking for change and looking for outlets that are positive, and they really they're doing their time. They don't want to get in trouble, and they really enjoy that. The respect that they get in the class.
And for some, I mean, you've outlined some of the situations with the more, the more secured prisoners, inmates, students. That's another thing too, is finding out in which context to refer to the guys living in Pelican Bay, to refer to them as students. Unless I'm talking to the office, they're inmates. I'm talking, it's an interesting learning thing too. But there has to be also some sort of benefit for some of these guys just to be in that sort of setting to get the change. Right?
Yeah,
to be in class.
You may have noticed this, but I learned this over time. I didn't realize it when I first went in, is when the class first starts, is they need to talk to each other.
Yeah.
They need to pass some news around.
Yeah.
They've been in cells for hours overnight. They don't get to talk to each other. And so they come in, and it's the first, 5 minutes is really catching up on the news, what's going on with the various challenges that they're facing or their friends. Many of them, I've met a number of people who have grown up together in the system. I did talk to the chaplain at one point, and he mentioned, some of these guys, I saw them down in LA when they were in the juvenile system, and now I'm meeting them at Pelican Bay. And I've had students say, oh, see that guy sitting across the room from me there? We grew up next to each other. We were kids in the same hood. So in some ways, because they're cut off from family, they're cut off from their own communities back at home, that first 5 minutes of class is, talk about the weather, talk about whatever that means in Pelican Bay. And that's really breaks the ice in the whole room. Then it's, let's sit down and get to work and, produce our artwork, and then the teacher can go.
That's,
Now it's your turn, Teacher McNiel. Go for it.
Oh man. So the show, how many works are going to be in the courthouse?
There is 31 artworks.
Wow. Okay. All right, 31 works of art, art from the inside, number 5. This is a yearly event then?
Yes, it's at this time of year, every year.
Okay. And I guess Steph Wenning's down there hanging art right now.
Yes.
She's a wonderful person. I've got to have her on the air and talk to her, because she does so much for so many different aspects of life in Delaware County. It's
Absolutely.
Julie McNiel, you are a teacher now. You've been doing this, you said, since 2014, and I imagine that there's no end in sight for you?
No, as long as people want me there, I'll be there. I'll be there for them.
That's fantastic. That's it. Well, thanks for coming in and talking. Get down to the courthouse, check out the art. And you said how long about until everything's finished being installed?
A week from now.
A week from now. So give it some time, drift in and out. If you've got some business at the courthouse, then you've got something to look at there. Art from the inside. It is inmate/students. Their art from Pelican Bay, which is so funny for a lot of us out here. And this was for years and years. You drive by the prison, you can kind of forget. You might know COs and the families, and I, as a photographer, took lots of family pictures and COs and knew who were the COs and things like that. But you can kind of forget that there's this entire, almost hermetically sealed world.
Yes.
Right here. And there's some very interesting things that happen on the inside, and a lot of insights that can come out of that.
Oh, absolutely.
So thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing their art and their stories with us on the outside, helping us remember they're there.
Well, I really want to thank you, Paul, for letting the community here in the region know about this. And I also want to thank everybody who helped to help make the exhibition possible, including community partnerships inside of Pelican Bay, Warden Robertson, and all of the staff who went out of their way, often really out of their way, to help get this artwork through the system and out the front door, including DNACA and the Arts and Corrections program. I'm really really grateful. Thank you so much.
That's another thing. We've been talking about the man all through of this, but what I have found, and I'm sure it's something that you've seen change over the time you've been there, is that the staff at Pelican Bay very supportive of all of these programs.
Yes.
They see their value and want to make them happen.
Yeah, they know there are data studies about even people working on the ground. They're seeing a healthier conversation and better behavior and a better situation for themselves. People enjoy the art on the inside. People that work there, they've got artwork, all around the interior.
I've asked about specific paintings, and this was a student, and exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, wow.
Yes.
Julie, thank you so very much. And
Thanks, Paul.
sometime when we get the chance, and we can maybe sit down and talk more in depth about the other programs and things happening out there.
That would be great. Yes, thank you.